I would like to start.
Oh, sorry, switch.
Okay, thanks. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are all meeting on the land of the Wajak Noongar Wajak people. As I pay my respect to their elders past and present, I promise to tread lightly and with respect on this beautiful land. May we continue to learn from the wisdom and courage of the indigenous people everywhere as we stand together to fight for liberation, equality, and justice. As we approach the commemoration of the beginning of this chapter of the ongoing genocide committed by Israel on the Palestinian people in Gaza and all over Palestine, as we mark the devastating one-year anniversary of Israel's relentless genocide in Gaza, the atrocities that could have been averted if nations had honored their legal and moral obligations, we are forced to confront the brutal reality of international inaction, including from Australia. Israel has unleashed a relentless campaign of killing and destruction against the Palestinian people. Wielding its military power without restraint, it has unleashed a brutal siege, airstrikes, and ground assaults that have reduced homes, schools, and hospitals to rubble, leaving entire communities devastated. This is not an attack on lives. It is an assault on the dignity, identity, and the very existence of the Palestinian people. The numbers alone are staggering. Over 41,689 Palestinians that have been killed and 96,625 more that have been injured. Many of them in ways that will forever alter the course of their lives. Yet, these figures fail to capture the full scale of the devastation. Thousands remain entombed beneath the rubble, their bodies yet to be recovered, while the indirect death toll, those who perished from lack of medical care, malnutrition, or a psychological toll of living under constant siege, is estimated to be around 189,000 people. Just a little footnote here. I'm sure all of you have noticed that the numbers haven't really gone up rapidly, and there's a reason for that. I'm sure some of you know the reason, but for those that don't know the reason is for these numbers to be actually sort of verified, and for them to be able to put them down, the bodies need to be verified. And with the way Israel is doing the bombing in Gaza, the bodies are not recovered in a way that can be identified by anyone. Add to that for them to be able to add these numbers to this number, to the toll that they've got, the bodies need to reach the hospital. Most of these bodies don't reach the hospital because when people are given a plastic bag with the remains of a person, there is no need for you to take it to the hospital. You bury them straight away. So that person wouldn't be identified as well. That's why we hear 41,000, but we know for a fact, just by looking at the scene in Gaza, that the number is way higher than that. I can give you a tiny little example. I have lost 200 members of my family, and that's my family. You can only imagine if every person has lost that number from their family, you can only imagine how big the number would be. So the number that we set, the 189,000, makes around 8% of the population of Gaza. Let's stop and think of the percentage. 8% of an entire population killed in cold blood. You can't say you didn't know, because we all know. I used to think when my grandmother used to talk to me about the Nakba in 1948, I used to always ask her, why didn't the world do anything about it when you were ethnically cleansed? Why didn't anyone do anything about it? And her answer used to be, people didn't know. Now there's no excuse. People know. There's no excuse. This is not a tragedy, it is a moral catastrophe. The failure of the international community to act, to intervene, and to stop the mass killing of the Palestinians is a stain on all of us. Where many governments, including our government here, are intentionally disregarding expert advice despite extensive advocacy grounded in international law, who advised that what is taking place in Gaza, Palestine, is a genocide. Australia has clear international obligations, yet our role as a middle power is undermined. In part due to our strong trade ties with Israel and the long-standing position with its allies, starting with the US, and the other part is the lack of will to create a change. From refusing to impose sanctions on arms, embargo on Israel, to freezing vital funding to UNRWA, to abstaining on crucial UN votes, the Australian government has consistently prioritized political expediency over the human rights of the Palestinian people and the international legal obligation. And as we hear the foreign minister often talk about Australia's influence in the Middle East as a middle power in the world and in the region here, it is difficult to determine. It's actually not difficult to determine that its influential role is a selective one. For we clearly are not using that influence to stop Israel's crimes. We are selectively choosing where we want to be influential, revealing a clear double standards, which Gaza has helped us see clearly. The glaring reality is that it has also become clear that our commitment to AUKUS takes priority to international law and human rights. Many might think that the reason I'm making these points is the fact that I am a Palestinian Australian. And that's true. Palestine is my country of birth. To me, it is my mother. It's like my mother, and with everything she represents. But Australia is where my children were born, where I created a life for my little family. And it worries me to think that the place I call home would be complicit in one way or another in the killing of my people. So how is Australia complicit? And why should we worry about its position towards the genocide taking place in Palestine? What should worry us about Australia's position of lack of clear position on the genocide is the fact that a state can be responsible for complicity in genocide if it continues in its trade and military relations with a state that is actively committing genocide. In the instance of Israel's crimes in Gaza, the ICJ finding of the plausible risk and imminent risk of genocide triggers a third state's legal obligation under the Genocide Convention. The Genocide Convention imposes a minimum legal obligation on states to each take responsible actions to prevent genocide, an obligation which applies regardless or of whatever any of the states' actions alone are sufficient to prevent genocide or not. In conclusion, it is important to note that while the world is trying to turn a blind eye on the atrocities which are taking place in Gaza, it is only a matter of time where our children and grandchildren will be studying this genocide in history books and learning about where Australia stood on this. So what else has Gaza revealed to us other than that? other than the double standard and the hollow words. Gaza revealed the truth. Gaza helped us see behind the masks and the empty words and taught us a lesson or two in humanity. The Palestinian people are facing this world alone and have nothing to fight back with except their own phones, broadcasting their last breath, their open wound, and their last words before departing from this unfair world. Gaza also revealed that October 7 wasn't a standalone incident, and it can't be taken out of the full picture of injustice, which the world helped create by enabling the oppressor. Gaza also revealed that silence on atrocities taking place somewhere, no matter how far, would create a precedent that would allow it to reach our doorstep one day, when other countries use that as a green light to commit similar crimes. Gaza also revealed that the United Nations proved to be a toothless entity. The United Nations that was founded on the principles of promoting peace and security and human rights, the United Nations that was meant to be a beacon of hope for a world that had just emerged from the horrors of war, the United Nations, which is tasked with upholding international law, providing platform for diplomacy and preventing atrocities today, as we look at the ongoing situation in Gaza, it has become clear that the United Nations is becoming a toothless entity. And much of this impotence is due to Israel's consistent disregard of international law. For decades, Israel has acted with relative impunity, violating numerous UN resolutions and international agreements without facing significant consequences. From illegal settlements in the West Bank to turning Gaza into a slaughterhouse, Israel's actions have consistently flouted the very principles the UN was created to protect: international law, in the Geneva Convention and other treaties. The result is a weakened UN, one that issues condemnations but is unable to enforce its own principles. When one state is allowed to consistently disregard international law without consequences, it undermines the entire international system. It sends a message to the other nations that the rules do not apply if you are powerful enough or have the right alliance. This is the situation on the ground, and this is what Gaza has shown us. Netanyahu was addressing the General Assembly while bombs were raining on Beirut in South Lebanon. That itself was a slap on the face of the United Nations and international law. Gaza has also revealed what many of us had seen for years: the fact that Oslo was born dead. And so is the two-state solution. After 30 years of negotiations under duress, while the boot of the oppressor was on the Palestinians' neck, it became clear that the 30 years were for Israel to buy time and put its hands on most of the Palestinian land. Gaza also revealed the role of the mainstream media and its complicity in this crime, where a lie of beheaded Israeli babies is worth reporting, while an actual reality of beheaded Palestinian babies never saw the light. Gaza revealed that the US and their allies are supporting an ethno-supremacist state that is killing and terrorizing innocent civilians, more than half of whom are children, more than half of whom come from families of refugees displaced from their cities and towns since 1948. The US and its allies are complicit in the genocide, and history will be the judge of that. Gaza also revealed that there was no ceasefire prior to October 7th. The year of 2023 was the deadliest year for the Palestinian people in the West Bank. Gaza also revealed that being silent on what took place in Gaza is what allowed what's happening in Lebanon now. And it is what's going to be dragging us into a regional war. The last thing that Gaza has revealed, and I would like to just shed some light on it, is that everybody feels that it's their right to propose a solution on the Palestinians. The truth is that your place, in general, is creating the condition for them to be free. Free from oppression, from occupation, from apartheid. Once these conditions are created, it is up to the Palestinians then to use their self-determination to choose their solution.
Because it's happening in front and we're not doing enough to speak out about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, and as I end my talk with you, I would like to thank the organizers at IPAN and everyone whose voice makes a difference in a world which was starting to become numb to injustices around the world. Until the real change started to emerge after all the darkness that we've seen. What we know is the darkest hours are the ones that are just before dawn. And we're living the darkest hours now in Palestine. I have no doubt that dawn is coming, no doubt. I believe that tomorrow will bring back hope as long as we stay, as long as we never turn our faces away, not just until genocide is ended, but until the end of the Israeli occupation, until justice is served, until Israel is held accountable, until every inch of Palestine is free, free from injustice, free from occupation, free from apartheid, and free from oppression, from the river to the sea. Thank you.